Chapter 7. The clock on the gym wall reads 3:06, and Chris, Dex, Anthony, Jaden, and Tamika are the only players who've shown up for the second day of Not Quite Hoop Group. Without Coach Beck's leadership, they all stand in awkward silence, waiting for someone to step up and take charge. Miss Turner, a 6th grade TA, has been assigned to monitor any basketball activity. Based on the stack of papers she's busy grading, she has no intention of actually getting involved. After a few moments of sideways glances, Tamika walks to the middle of the court, her right foot resting firmly on the beak of her Carter Middle mascot, a cardinal that's painted there. "I'm appointing myself captain of Hoop Group," she says matter-of-factly. Jaden shifts his weight from one leg to the other, but ultimately says nothing to Chris. On the other hand, he speaks up immediately. "How are you automatically the captain?" he says. Tamika rolls her eyes. "Do you have another option? I waited for almost 10 minutes for one of you to say something, but since you didn't, I did." Dex and Anthony look at each other and then away. "Maybe we should vote," Chris said. "How do you know I don't want to be captain?" Tamika rolls her eyes again, but concedes. "Fine, let's vote. Everybody who wants me to be captain, raise your hand." Anthony's hand goes up in an instant. Jaden hesitates. He doesn't want Tamika or Chris to be captain, but he waits too long. Dex raises his hand in favor of Tamika too. 2 out of 3, Tamika said. Jaden's vote doesn't even matter. Tamika shoots an "I told you so" look in Chris's direction and continues. "Now, as long as we're all here, we might as well play and at least try to get better as a team. I think we should start with a game of 2-on-2 so we can see what everybody needs to work on. Jaden and Anthony against Chris and Dex. I'll referee." After speaking, Tamika looks over at Miss Turner, who still hasn't lifted her head. With no objection, she tosses the ball to Chris. "You all take out first." There's a moment when it seems like Chris is going to push back again, that he's going to assert some flimsy claim born of his famous last name, but he thinks better of it and heads up to the baseline. Jaden tells Anthony to slide over to guard Chris while he squares up against Dex. Seconds later, the game is underway. The teams are as even as they can be, given the circumstances, and Tamika watches from the sideline as Jaden falls into an easy rhythm. He's confident but calm, plays nothing like he just did one day prior. At the same time, Chris is serving up more of the same. On defense, Chris takes Jaden, and from the beginning, it's clear that he's outmatched. For Jaden hits a couple of mid-range jumpers, stepping back just enough to rise up about Chris's outstretched arms. Frustrated, Chris starts playing him tighter. Tamika shakes her head and knows what's coming next. Jaden blows past Chris, taking it straight to the hole. Now Chris is embarrassed and struggling, so he starts flopping, calling imaginary fouls and accusing Jaden of traveling, double dribbling, carrying, anything to make his own deficiencies. But Tamika's in charge, and she waves Chris off, telling him that Jaden is playing clean and that he needs to slide faster on his feet and figure out how to cut off the drive. It doesn't matter, though. Chris keeps whining and complaining anyway. "Listen, man," Jaden finally says to him, "if you don't want to play, just say that." Chris cuffs and crosses his arms on his chest. "Oh, so I'm not supposed to say something when you take an extra step on every layup? That's called a travel." "Travel? Man, whatever. You're just mad because you keep getting beat. So I'm getting beat? That's what you think?" Chris takes 2 steps forward, just enough to position himself 2 inches from Jaden's face. Jaden calls Chris bluff and stands firm. "Nah, man, that's what I know. And it's a shame your uncle ain't here to save you from this beating." In an instant, Miss Turner stands up from her seat, ready to jump in. But from Tamika's vantage point, Chris's fist is sure to connect with Jaden's jaw before she'll ever have time to reach them. Then, just as Chris begins to curl his fingers tight, just before he can redeem his name and his tattered game, Anthony's positioned himself between the 2 boys. With one quick motion, he shows Chris back the 10 yards. Chris takes a couple breaths, regains his balance, and wipes dripping sweat from his brow. "You know what?" Chris said, his voice inexplicably cocky. "My dad was right. Y'all some scrubs. I'm done with this." He walks to the far end of the court, picks up his backpack, and without saying another word, exits the gym. Tamika's stunned, but before she has time to take control, Jaden's gathered his things and is halfway out the gym too. "Where are you going?" Tamika calls after him. Jaden shakes his head and continues walking. "I'm going home. Group hoop ain't supposed to be like this." The door closes behind Jaden and silence settles over the gym. Tamika can feel Anthony and Dex staring at her, waiting to do something, to say anything. But what's there to say or do? Tamika looks at the clock, 3:42. Just 2 hours and 42 minutes into the season, and group hoop is down to 3 players.